What's up, y'all? Welcome into the bye week episode of Believe in Kentucky. Cole Park for the Cat's Paws. My name is Vinny Hardy. Bye week is a lot better when you sweep Tennessee and you don't have to sit on a loss the whole week as you prepare for the Florida Gators in Gainesville.
Yeah, absolutely. We talked last episode about being worried about Oklahoma being a trap game. How are they going to respond against Tennessee again, the home game? They go out and win both of them. And they beat Oklahoma convincingly, really avoided the trap there. And then they host Tennessee and they do their magic, Vinny. They go down in a hole and they come right back in the end to win it. Another Colin Chandler dagger against the Vols. Just a fun week, really. That crowd was insane. The cheers seemed to go on for a really prolonged period of time after the buzzer. It was a very fun environment to be a part of. It's one that, not to steal from Tennessee with their battered Vol syndrome, enough Kentucky fans will also know, like, it's one of those games that felt big enough that you just expected to be disappointed. A great crowd, a great home game. It felt like you were ready to be let down, and then they didn't. They won the game in front of the '96 team. They had the denim jerseys on. It was just a special night. Got the victory there, and then they had a week off to prepare for what the predictive metrics have as their toughest game of the season in the O-Dome against Florida, a Florida team that at one point seemed like they were struggling. At one point was in the conversation with Kentucky as one of the more disappointing teams this year. It doesn't quite seem to be the case anymore. They seem to have figured it out. They're moving up the rankings. They're winning these games, and this game will be for sole possession of first place in the SEC. So a lot riding on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, what, 3 weeks ago, however long, 4 weeks ago, first of the year. Yeah, first of the year when they're 0-2, who could have saw this coming? You still see them digging these holes. They still find the ways to overcome it. So that's 8-3. To go 8-1 after going 0-2. Because what last week you and I talked about, I think it was, what are we expecting from this team? And you're like, God only knows. And
Mm-hmm.
this could they still get blown out in Gainesville? Yeah. Could they go down there and steal that game? Yeah. Everything's still on the table,
Oh,
basically.
absolutely. Yeah, we still have no idea. As for what's going to happen in Gainesville, I say this with complete sincerity, and I don't want to like act as though I'm wishing anything out there. But if they go down there and they get blown out by Florida, it's not going to shock me at all. I'll be like, okay. If they go out there and they beat Florida, it also won't shock me. I'm like, like there's nothing this team can do anymore to surprise me. I might
Yeah.
actually the most surprising outcome to me would be if they lose close, because I don't think they do that very often. I think the
Yeah.
stat is actually usually in the SEC. I think in one possession games they've only lost once, and that was the Missouri game, or not one possession, but within single digits, right? Um, so they tend to either lose badly or win. So the most shocking outcome might be a close loss if that's what happens.
That's still one of the few things we haven't seen. You're right. Yeah. That box is unchecked. So,
Pretty much just Missouri and North Carolina in terms of close losses.
hmm
I mean, I guess
so you,
Louisville ended up being close, but it felt bigger than that because there was the
oh,
amount of
yeah.
gaps they were trying to overcome.
Yeah. Because, I can't play the, well, it looked respect. It looked closer than it was card when it's Louisville, in-state rival, and they're up 20, and you
Mhm.
you claw back. You just I can't go there. We have the Denzel Aberdeen return to Gainesville game. We already had the Mo Diabate return to Tuscaloosa,
Didn't go as
and
well.
that was when things were good. You had Mo talking about the preparation. Was it for him, the team, the players? It was just kind of vague, but he, intimated that there was a lack of preparation. And so now you have Denzel, who's playing well, going back to the O Dome to face his former team. So that storyline, he'll be asked
Not
about
just
it.
his former team at that either, the team he grew up a fan of.
Yeah.
That's a Florida kid right there. So
hmm
it's a big homecoming for him. And with how they've been winning these games, they're going to need a big showing out of him because even when he's not the elite scoring presence Zoe as it feels like it always comes down to him shooting free throws, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. So, and that with the Tennessee game, because you had Chandler out there, you had Denzel out there. Malik Howe's out there, Diabate was out there, and I'm like, how we got to navigate this stretch, and they were able to. Chandler missed one, but Mo comes in for the rebound, which is
Mhm.
why you have him out there, and then Denzel was able to knock him down. So
Yeah, Colin Chandler comes in huge with that shot. I mean, just an electric shot with Owe kicking it back out. We've learned after the fact that was not the design play. Colin Chandler was like, he said, I wasn't the option because there was no option. The plan was just to get Owe down low, and he just decided to kick it out. I was open. I took the shot. So he hits that dagger. Then Tennessee tries to do their thing. He gets put on the line, misses one. I was expecting him to be money at the free throw line for Colin Chandler, but he misses it, which paves the way for Diabate to make his big play. A play that he's made already this season, but one that he's reliable for. The reason he was out there, that rebounding presence, he manages to smack it back out to Aberdeen, who then gets fouled, put on the line, and then just absolutely ices the game from the charity stripe. That there's nothing Tennessee could do at that point.
yeah, yeah. Tennessee fans down here are kind of scratching their head at Rick Barnes because he said that I think this loss was easier to swallow because they were competitive as opposed to being non-competitive in Knoxville, and they're all like, it was the same game, Rick. It was the exact. So it's funny seeing them, down here going through it.
Yeah, it is kind of funny. I mean, the difference was that in Tennessee it got up to 17, whereas here it only got up to 14. But I would argue in terms of how the games were structured, there were some differences. Kentucky started making its comeback in the first half in Knoxville. They got down 17 and started chipping back to go down by like 11 or something like that at halftime. Whereas in this case, they kind of started fine, and it was only towards the end of the half that they really gave up and put themselves in a hole that they had to respond to in the second half. I did feel like, to what Rick was trying to say, I did feel like in the second half this time it felt a bit more back and forth. Tennessee did take the lead back after Kentucky stole it in the first place. They kind of were trading blows with Kentucky having to slowly chip away at the advantage, whereas in Tennessee it kind of felt like an avalanche, a surge of just a big scoring run for Kentucky, kind of doing it all at once. So I think that might be what he was getting at. But in both cases, I would argue that almost the first time would be easier to swallow because I'm more willing to accept my team just forgetting how to play basketball for 5 minutes than in an entire over the stretch of an entire half just simply being outmatched. I would actually completely disagree with the sentiment that I think the first loss would have been easier to swallow because it's a lot easier to accept that your team just let off the gas, for a little stretch. That's what happened against Kentucky, against North Carolina, against Missouri even. Seemed to happen against Texas, but they ended up clinching the game anyway. Whereas this time it felt like Tennessee got a big, capitalizing on Kentucky's mistakes, and then kind of just got meticulously picked apart. And, not to say, because I don't know how this season's going to go, and I don't know how both teams are going to do. I don't want to put any bulletin board material out there for Tennessee, but as good as they've been and as questionable as some of Kentucky's losses have been, it seemed like in the second half of the second time these teams have faced off, try saying that 5 times fast, Kentucky won because they just looked like the better basketball team when they were clicking. They were outmatching and they were playing around Tennessee. The defensive switches were able to limit what Tennessee's stars were able to do, moving away onto Jacoby Gillespie, really shut him down after he was such a big factor in the first half. We saw Bishop Boswell was able to kind of have a bit better of a second half with Owe off of him, but Bishop Boswell is not Jacoby Gillespie. He's not going to be able to match that production. So it felt to me like Kentucky more routinely and more accurately picked apart Tennessee the second time. So it was more competitive, but I think that against Rick Barnes's point, I would be more concerned with the fact that it was competitive and they still blew it. You know what I mean?
Don't let Boswell hear you say that Kentucky was better because he still thinks Tennessee was a better team. So I mean,
Yes, he
oh my
does.
God. So
I'll take it
yeah,
away had him in chains in the first half. So
yeah,
he was clamped up.
whatever you want,
Absolutely clamped.
whatever you want, you'll tell yourself, man. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, now they get ready for Florida this weekend, Saturday afternoon, 3 o'clock down there in Gainesville, and we'll see if they can keep it going. Will the bye week be rest? Yes, but will also create a little bit of rust. It's always that little dilemma when you get out of your routine, and uh, so the bigs for Florida are uh, a focal point as always, and of course Kentucky goes down there with Malachi and Garrison, Yelovich. I'm sure Mo D will be expected to play bigger than he is given the type of lineup that Florida has, we need you to be bigger than 6'7" and go down there and mix it up and get your nose bloody and get dirty, which that's his type of game anyway. But you're gonna have to, if you try to match it or counteract it, that's what you got to do with the lineup they got.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it goes with his availability. We've heard that he might not be done just yet, but I think it's going to be a game where Kentucky will definitely, assuming that things stay as they have been, it's a game where I think Kentucky will miss Jaden Quaintance and will miss Cam Williams too. Cam Williams does bring size as well as shooting. Um, but it'll be interesting to see how they adjust and how they play that again. Florida's a very, very good basketball team. They're ranked very highly both in the rankings now and in the predicted metrics by the computers. Uh, Obviously, the reigning national champions. So it'll be interesting to see how they perform. I agree that Florida has a roster that has the ability to kind of give Kentucky fits, especially with some of the size down there. We're going to need to see strong play to Moreno, see if he can, use some of that strength he showed. Obviously, he goes kind of back and forth with that at times, but he's a true freshman. That's what you expect. Need to see some play out of Garrison. Need him to do some big things. See if Yelovich can work on getting some of those boards. Modi Abate fight for the boards. Even see if maybe Trent Noah can be a viable option in this game because it might not seem like it always, but Trent Noah does have some size to him that can help you. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how a guy like Colin Chandler slots in some of these areas, but it'll be interesting to see how this game plays out. And ultimately, game planning for Florida is not my job. So
Yeah, that's what they pay the Golden Boy for. So absolutely. Um, we're coming to y'all live on YouTube. Subscribe at Believe in Kentucky, courtesy of the Believe Network. Appreciate everybody takes time to listen and subscribe wherever you choose to consume the show. We appreciate it. If you want to rate, give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Hit the subscribe button on YouTube. We're live now. People in the comments, we always appreciate that. Right now on the women's side, they're kind of in a little bit of a slog. Have slipped below 500 in the SEC. 1 point loss to Vanderbilt. Then a tough back to back when you go to Austin after playing Vandy. In the game, in spite of all the turnovers and scoring droughts, they were there in the fourth quarter. They ended up losing by 11. So now it's kind of recalibrate. They're 18-7 now, 5-6 in the conference after starting off like 17-2. So turbulent little patch for them, and we'll see how they can kind of bounce back and wipe some blood off of their nose that they've been going through these past few games.
yeah, I mean, one, I think it just has to be said, and it's any sport you look at these days, but the SEC is a brutal, brutal conference to play in. It's very unforgiving in that regard, even in the women's game, especially in the women's game, arguably. I do think that Kentucky, not that there's ever truly a great time to have injuries to key players, but it really had a bad time to have injuries to key players because you lose Tiani Key for that little stretch where you drop at Mississippi State, at Tennessee versus Georgia. Some of these games that you would hope to have, under your belt already, you kind of drop some of those. And now you get her back. It's huge to have her back, and you get the big win at Arkansas by 20 points. But you look down the barrel of back-to-back games against top 10 opponents, including a top 5 opponent at Tennessee. They battled back really well against Vanderbilt, and they almost pulled it off late there. But weren't able to kind of get it done. Ultimately fall to number 7 Vanderbilt. That was a tough one to swallow, but competitive. And then you go down to Texas. You lose by double digits against a phenomenal number 4 Texas team. You don't get as much as you'd like out of your stars, I would say. No real big scoring figures like you'd seen. I mean, you look at the games prior to that. He had 27 against Vanderbilt. Clara Strack had 33 against Arkansas. There was no one with that kind of performance in Austin. And some of that is a testament to how good the Longhorns are. Some of that is just a tough game and some tough matchups that really limited what Kentucky was able to do. You also look in the assist number. You didn't quite get as many assists as you like. It was a low-scoring game, which I don't necessarily know is where Kentucky tends to thrive. If you actually look at it, it seems a lot of their losses turn out to be some of those low-scoring defensive battles. That tends to be where they don't feel the most comfortable.
Yeah.
And when you look at what comes up, it doesn't get a ton easier, does it, Vinny? Because you have games against unranked opponents, but still strong opponents against Texas A&M next, and then at Auburn at the end of February. But you still have to go to Vanderbilt, which is now up to number 5. You got number 14 Ole Miss coming to town the day after Valentine's Day, and then you end the season against South Carolina. It's not going to get any easier, but you can get a few of those wins. Those will be huge for the resume, and I think Kentucky is setting itself up, or as some like to say, putting themselves in position to be in position to, make a run in March.
Yeah. And maybe seated lower than what the actual capability of the team is at full strength, in rhythm with the chemistry that you hope that you get with everybody back. Still got to go through this gauntlet, like you said, but they've taken a few more losses than people thought, and can maybe catch people slipping. Yeah, they've lost. People maybe tend to think they're not as good as what they really are. I think
Yeah.
that could, they could be landing in the weeds. As talented as they are, Claire Strack, who is a Lisa Leslie watch list, and Tony Morgan, Nancy Lieberman Klein list. These, 2 cornerstones of that caliber. Still got Amelia and everybody else filling in, and they could maybe be, off the radar. Sounds weird, but they could.
Absolutely. I also think it's important, not that Kentucky fans should listen to me say this. I mean, they're sports fans. They're not going to be always rational about it, but it's also important to think about, we're having these kind of conversations about this team in year 2, not that the era of the transfer portal and NIL makes that crazy, but call me a little bit old fashioned. I still think that sometimes, especially, in women's basketball or some of these women's programs, because women oftentimes commit to colleges earlier than a lot of men do. They kind of reach their physical maturity a bit quicker and can be scouted a bit earlier on. You hear that with some softball players as compared to baseball players, and whatnot. So to that point, I do think that it is impressive already that we're talking about a team that can make a sneaky run, go to a second weekend, maybe even make a push in year 2, because you're looking at what's coming in. They've got 3 McDonald's All-Americans in the game this year. Their entire recruiting class is in the McDonald's All-American game. So, it seems like the program's only going to go up from here, and this is where we're at right now. We're right now in, they were picking off an LSU, winning these games in the SEC, showing that they can make a run in the tournament. In year 2 with, it kind of reminds me of a little bit of last year's men's team. We're talking about Amelia Hassett, who was playing at JUCO before she came to Kentucky, and now she's one of the more reliable players in the SEC. So right now, you're still not even seeing all of these top dollar recruits who are coming into the program. This is still the foundational years, and we're already talking about what the ultimate capabilities of this team are. A team that looked at one point when they were playing at full strength like a national championship contender. I think that says a lot about what Kenny Brooks is building and what the ceiling of this program really could be.
Yeah. So it's fun to watch, and like you said, even though they're in this rough patch, the cupboard was on the way. The Madden Greenway is like the Travis Perry of Minnesota. Like, she scored 5,000 some odd points in her career up there. So definitely the future is bright. I'm not a huge recruiting guy. I'm always like, if the season starts, they don't have a team, then I'll worry. I don't follow the ins and outs and every little breath and blink of an eye in recruiting. But back to the men's side, still a lot of angst, and is what
I think that Kentucky is in a tough spot right now, and some of that is self-inflicted, and some of it is just natural roster construction. I was having a conversation with this about someone the other day, and I do still expect them to land at least one high school player. I just do. I genuinely do. Also, there was a lot made about Kentucky not having a McDonald's All-American this year. There's also still a lot of McDonald's All-Americans that haven't committed anywhere. And in the era of NIL and this transfer portal system, we're seeing players kind of commit later and later. It feels like at times, hearing out offers later and later. So I'm not overly concerned about that. I do still think they'll get a high school player, most likely. But in terms of, am I concerned about the lack of it this year? Not really, because to me it makes sense. And I do think that some of that, I'm sure there are things that need to be sorted out with, the payment plans, the exclusivity contracts, all of the recruiting, the directions they're taking, the strategies they're using. But I also think when you look at how this roster is constructed, it's hard right now to fully, if I'm a recruit, I don't know because I don't necessarily know what I'm getting into, right? When you look at this roster, Malachi Moreno is probably going to be back next year. That's most likely, right? He could test the waters, but I think he'll most likely be back in college. JQ's gone, right? He's going to go regardless, I feel like. Brandon Garrison, I don't know. It's a wild card toss up. Might transfer, might be back. Who knows? But if you're a big, you're looking at this team next year and saying, well, Malachi Moreno is probably their starter. Now, if you're a point guard, I don't know. Is Jalen Lowe going to get a red shirt? Is he going to come back? Is he going to transfer? Is he going to test the G League waters again? What's going to happen there? Are they going to have a starting point guard next year? If I'm a point guard recruit, I don't know. I don't know what the plan is yet, and it's hard for me to make my decision based on that, especially when we just saw Travis Perry, a kid who loves Kentucky, make the decision to go somewhere else because of minutes and availability and playing time in this new era. And then you go down the roster. I mean, how many of these guys are going to be back next year? And the simple answer is, apart from a couple that we know for sure are gone, like Oweh, most likely JQ going to the draft. I think DA is going to be out of eligibility. I don't know who's going to be back on this team. And if I'm a recruit, it's hard for me to fully see jumping into that, especially when another strong program is telling me right now, I want you to be our starter,
Yeah.
In this world where the money is more equal than maybe it's ever been in a lot of places. I don't think it's a coincidence that you look on the 247 list right now and there's a top 100 player committed to VCU already. Because I'm sure VCU was able to tell him, you're going to be the guy and the whole team's going to be built around you. If you want to transfer, look at what Hawaii's doing in football, where they're announcing I believe their thing was they're basically come to Hawaii for a year, ball out, and we're fine. If you want to go somewhere else, we'll support you going to another school. Even we'll make posts and show off your tape and say, go on, get a big bag, but come here and play for you. It's easier now than ever for a player to get guarantees to go somewhere and to get paid to go somewhere with guarantees. It's harder at times to necessarily. It's harder and harder now, in my opinion, to feel as secure going to a place like Kentucky. And that's not an excuse for Kentucky because Duke's figuring it out. Florida's figuring it out. UConn's figuring it out. It's capable of being done. I'm not just giving Kentucky an out here. They need to work on that. Other schools are figuring it out. But I am saying that I think that there are some natural factors with the way the roster is constructed that might be making it a bit harder for some of the recruits to fully envision themselves playing in this system. Not because I don't think they like the system, but because I don't know that a lot of top recruits now are open to the idea of coming in to back up.
Yeah. And that's always, a tightrope or a dilemma or, things of that nature. And it's just a different deal in this era, but it's still the same amount of minutes, still virtually the same amount of roster spots.
And theoretically, with how much they allegedly spent on this roster and how it's going, there's probably going to be, if we're keeping it honest, there's probably going to be a limited amount of money. They're not just going to let you throw infinite money at people if it's not paying dividends, right? I would expect. I don't know that I fully believe this year's roster costs $21 million, but I can bet next year's roster probably won't. It probably won't because if this is what 21 alleged $1 million gets you, let's take a smarter approach.
Yeah, that's true too, for sure. It is still winter, but baseball and softball already started. They're already 5-1. Baseball plays Friday. UNC Greensboro. We talked a little bit about the team last week. And
can I take a time out to say that I was immensely disappointed when doing my writing to find out that UNC Greensboro Stadium is called the UNCG Baseball Stadium. That sucks. We need to figure that out. What are they? The Spartans? They're Spartans, right? UNCG Spartans. That sounds right. Figure it out. Call it something better than that. UNCG Baseball Stadium. Come on, guys. You got to get a sponsor or something. You figure it
Yeah,
out.
that's what I'm looking up.
Either get a
No.
sponsor or call it like Spartan Arena or something like that. I don't care. Just call it something cooler. Call it the Spartans. What's I don't know. I'm not creative. That's not what I get paid to do. But they can do something better than UNCG baseball stadium.
Let's see. Is US Connect looks like there's a Volkswagen deal. I don't know, a plant or something in Greensboro. I'm trying to look up Greensboro businesses. There's got to be something that's
Surely
been
they
there
have like
forever.
some kind of like legendary athletic director or like coach or something you can name it after. Like we had a what was it? Cliff Hagen Baseball Stadium. You can do
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that. Do something
Hmm.
call it who's notable. Let's come out of UNCG. Let me look this up. Um, I hope it's someone important. Give me something good. Pulitzer Prize winning poets,
Uh-oh.
congresswoman.
Uh-oh.
It's not looking good in the baseball department. They have a actor from 13 Reasons Why, so that's pretty cool. Sure. Um, actor from The Walking Dead. Who is this?
Uh-oh. That might be your best bet. I don't know anything about it, but the walk.
Vaguely in The Walking Dead, it seems. Season 8. I don't know. Yeah, it's not looking good as far as the notable alumni go at UNCG. It's not looking good, Vinny.
Yeah, we tried. We are looking up stuff about Greensboro and trying to find facts and people and third largest city in North Carolina. I mean, 300,000 people. His nickname is the Gate
Okay,
City.
hold on. We got something here. We got
Oh,
Brian Moeller played baseball at. He played. Brian Moeller pitched for the University of North Carolina at Greensboro before getting drafted by the Detroit Tigers and playing all the way up until 2010 with the Houston Astros. So he was in the NBA or MLB from 1996 until 2010. That's good enough for me, Vinny. That's better than UNCG baseball stadium. Let's name it. Name it Moeller Park. Give me Moeller Park. That's what we're calling it from now on.
like Edward R. Murrow was born near Greensboro. I mean, you can name. I don't know. Let's see where he went to. Oh, he went to Washington State, but so you got the famous
I mean,
broadcaster that
I feel
was.
like having been out of the league for 16 years now, you had for like a 14-year long MLB career. That's good enough for UNCG, right? Brian Moeller. Let's name it
Yeah,
Moeller Park. Come on, UNCG baseball stadium. Get it out. It's Moeller Park now.
yeah.
From this point forward, I'm exclusively referring to it as Moeller Park.
I mean, there's nothing to keep that from happening, man.
I'm gonna write him a strongly worded letter.
Yeah, I mean, there's. I'm with that, man. Brian Moeller. Yeah, look at you just solving problems and just getting it. Yeah, so for the Astros, that's where he played.
Yeah, he started his career with the Tigers, and then for the Reds, the Astros, the Marlins, and the Astros again.
And from Greensboro, went to UNCG.
In 2012, he was hired as a Georgia area scout for the Boston Red Sox. I'm sold. I'm sold.
There you go. So spring training, all that going well for them. Pitchers reporting, catchers reporting.
I'm ready to be disappointed again, Vinny. That's all it
Oh,
is.
okay,
I'm
man.
ready to be
All right.
disappointed. I think there actually are some people have expectations for them. Some people don't. No one really knows what the Red Sox. No one really knows what they're doing. I don't even know if the Red Sox know what they're doing. Truthfully, I think we're all just kind of clocking in and seeing how it goes. Um, ready to be disappointed again. Big market
Mm,
acting like a small market. You love to see it.
mm, mm, mm. Well, um, the Super Bowl was disappointing, but are you still coming away optimistic because y'all are ahead of schedule? You got a young quarterback and Vrabel, and he's going to draft well and all that. Where you at now going forward with your Pats?
Yeah, so I was getting a lot of texts on
Oh,
Sunday, and understandably so. I did talk a lot of trash, understandably. I was actually skiing the first part of the day. Um, Went skiing with the girlfriend and her family for the first part of the day. Never skied before, so that was an experience. My knee still hasn't forgiven me,
ooh.
unfortunately. It's very hard on the knees, but we're getting there. Only about died once. I got this bruise on my arm here from slamming it on some ice, but I'll
Mm,
survive. Did pretty well. Did better. I wasn't the worst one there, so I'll take that for what it's worth. Um, but no, I watched the Super Bowl, and I was disappointed. I
okay.
was. I was watching my team lose in the Super Bowl. No one likes seeing that. But I was also watching my team lose in the Super Bowl, Vinny. So at the end of the day, I'm optimistic because and this is what I've said before, but um, they won 4 games last year. Going into the season, the tune I was humming was, "Boy, I hope they go to the wild card. Hope they make the playoffs. That'd be cool. See a playoff game again. That'd be nice."
Yeah.
They lost in the Super Bowl. I'll take it. They
Hmm.
won. They lost 3 games all regular season and lost in the Super Bowl. I expected none of that. It's kind of like I think someone else said this best on Twitter. They said it's like when the waiter brings you a free appetizer. It doesn't really matter if you like it or not because it was free. It's better because it was here. Like even if I don't like it and I think it tastes awful and it threw a bunch of interceptions it shouldn't have thrown and the offensive line looked really bad. Still talking about the appetizer.
Yeah.
Um, it was still free, and I was expecting no appetizer, so I'll take the free appetizer. It's kind of the same as the Celtics to me right now, actually, too, because the Celtics are competing for a 2 seed in the East, and I should have known better betting against Jalen Brown and Joe Mazzulla, but I went into this season saying, well, Tatum's out, so they're probably going to tank, right? They're competing for the 2 seed in the East. So to me,
Yeah.
it's all just bonus. Whenever they lose, I'm not going to be disappointed because I didn't expect anything. You know what I mean? I expected nothing, and I got way more than that. So for me, the way I feel about my Patriots are I wanted to make the wild card this year. I wanted to see improvement and to believe that Drake May was the QB of the future, that we could build a team, that there was a vision under Vrabel. And I got Drake May competing for an MVP, and I got my team in the Super Bowl, not just in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And it's still early. I'm a bit sick and tired of hearing the Patriots need to draft offensive weapons because, oh my God, that's all we've ever needed to do forever, apparently. Um, but I believe, I believe it's possible, and I believe we've got the pieces to build around, and I believe that this window, this window arguably wasn't even opened yet. We kind of just forced it open for a quick season, but the window's still in the process of opening to me. So I'm fine. I'm optimistic, and um, I'd rather be 6-6 in the Super Bowl than 5-0. Quite frankly, I would.
Mm,
Some people disagree with that sentiment, but I would rather be 6-6 in the Super Bowl than 5-0 because I got to watch 12 Super Bowls. So that's
man.
cool. I'll take an
Yeah.
extra title over being undefeated in it.
Mm, hmm. Yeah. So the future is bright, and and you even got a coach that's nice to the media. He like thanked the, you know, VP of communications and thanked everybody for the anti Belichick. So he's even a good coach. Wins and losses, good roster, and cool to cover. So I mean, yeah, I'm just saying,
Anything's possible.
man, oh man. So yeah, we to see what the Cats do Friday in UNCG Stadium Field Park, the baseball field in
Moeller
Greensboro.
Park.
So hopefully they hopefully they get out the gates quickly and go on to the season that everybody hopes they're having to. So we'll wait for that. It all goes this week. Well, the women play um tomorrow, I think. Let me see.
A&M.
Uh, yeah, yeah. So yeah, then that'll get everybody to the weekend, and Um,
Softball kicks off their next midweek tournament too, don't they?
hmm
Or not midweek,
Yeah,
their next early
like
season tournament. I think they have a midweek game. Oh, they already won it,
like
Santa Barbara.
yeah, they got Stanford coming up, I think, and
Yeah, it's the
some more
Stanford
West Coast.
Invitational. They start Thursday against Cal State Fullerton, Stanford, Oregon, Cal Poly, Oregon again. So
Yeah, just big dose of the West Coast. So yeah,
indeed. Palo
Mhm.
Alto.
Yeah. And getting back to your Celtics real quick, you're. I like your outlook on both of them. Just they're already exceeding expectations based on star players being out and all this.
And
So
Amari Williams on a full contract.
yes, everything beyond is just gravy, like you said, that free appetizer. And you guys, I'll say it, you guys were in Houston and beat my Rockets to death. So, you got that going for you. That was, a nice
Well, Vinny,
big 20 point
how we feeling about an expansion draft?
for what? Oh, for
The
the
NBA?
the NBA. Oh, I mean, what, Seattle and Vegas? Is that what we're talking about? That's what.
Most likely.
Yeah. Should have never left Seattle.
I
I mean,
agree.
to be honest, because that. I mean, the squads up there. I never
I
made it
will
to the Key
also.
Arena, but I know that was an issue with
Mhm.
like it always is, and they have the Thunder now, but look it up, kids. KD started in
Mhm.
Seattle as a
Russell
member of
Westbrook
the
did too, didn't
Sonics.
he?
Absolutely. So,
Russell was. It was
uh,
Harden. Harden got drafted after they were already the Thunder, but Westbrook
mhm.
and Durant both were Supersonics.
Yeah,
No, I
yeah,
agree. I also think I don't give props to the OKC Thunder very often because I'm a bit of a hater, but props to OKC Thunder for they already admitted that if Seattle gets a new team, they'll give them their history back. That they won't. They'll give them let them take the history. It's always weird how that happens. If only the Lakers would do the same because those frauds are trying to say they're tied with the Celtics and they're claiming Minnesota titles, but whatever. That's not here nor there. But anyway, um, I will love to see the Supersonics return. Personally, there's other venues I'd rather see get an NBA team before Vegas, but it seems inevitable. They're getting a baseball team, they've got a football team, they've got a hockey team, and it's working out.
yeah.
So I'm not shocked they're going to get a basketball team. I would rather see one in Pittsburgh or Cincinnati or Louisville or somewhere like that in the East, but they want to go to Vegas. So it'll be interesting. I believe if that happens, each team will get to protect 8 players, not counting expiring contracts. So that'll be interesting. I think the Thunder will get absolutely rated if that happens, but we'll
Yeah.
see how it goes. It'll also be interesting to see. I believe the talk right now is that it would be the Grizzlies and the Timberwolves that move over to the East if they added 2 new West Coast teams.
Mm. Right there on the river anyway. So yeah,
Yeah,
it'd be
Minnesota's got a lot of historical rivalries in the East as well, even though they do feel very West Coast to me right now in terms of how they play their basketball in the conference, but they do have a lot of good rivalries with some East Coast teams, and then Memphis just is bizarre that they're in the West anyway. So
yeah, yeah. And they're just sticking dynamite on that and just blowing it all up right now because
yeah,
what a mess that became so quickly. Uh, but yeah, be fun to watch. Yeah, props to the Thunder. Mark Story does the Kentucky Sports Person of the Year, and this year was the first year that I had the winner just pick so quick. I mean, it was Shea. To me, everybody else was going for second because to be the best player on the best team in the league and to sweep all the awards and to have that kind of year, he was easily my pick to win it. Usually it's a struggle to, I will it down to 20. Now I got to will it down to 10. And now who's my winner out of my 10? But it was like, nope, it's Shea. Let me see what I'm going to do with these other 9. And so that's how impressive he was last year. So props to him for that.
he was not my
Uh,
number one.
huh.
He was not my number one.
Oh, who'd you have? You got to have
I
Mark back.
guess what?
Got to get Mark back on here too to talk about it. Always get him on here. So,
Well, I started my ballot going into it seeking just because I decided to. I was only going to vote for someone born in Kentucky. So that was an important factor for me in my votes. I gave it to Will Smith. Hit the
hmm,
game winning World Series run. You know what I mean? He had the big hit that basically clinched the Dodgers the World Series over the Blue Jays. Felt significant, and he's a Kentuckian. Number two into Sovereignty, the horse
Mm.
that won the Derby.
That's what I love about it. There are no wrong answers. There's so many different methods to people's madness when they do this. Uh, I usually, I'm not a hard and fast, if you went to college at Kentucky or Louisville and you've moved on, I'm not one of those. Some are like, some don't vote for them at all. And I get that. Uh, if you have a good year, say Devin Booker has a good year, averages 28 a game, and leads Phoenix to the second round of the playoffs. No, but for Shea, when you go all the
Yeah,
way through and win it, and you're the regular season MVP and the Finals MVP, then I'm like, okay,
yeah.
that's like
I think that's completely fair. I just tried to stick to my rule. I wanted to try to vote for only in-state people. I felt like that made the most sense to me for the award, but even I broke my rule once, I will admit. I did throw a vote to Devontae Blanton. That would be the greatest, not really the greatest, but the second all-time leading scorer in EKU history. He's born in Ohio, I believe, but he just finished up his career with EKU as their second all-time leading scorer in the program's history, and I had to give some love to the Kerns. But I had some fun with it. And I tried to highlight athletes or coaches or horses um, from the Commonwealth for the award, and had a good go of it.
yeah, for sure, for sure. So it's always fun. I always appreciate Mark's story for uh, putting in all that work and piling all those votes. And had to get him back on here. Had him on here a couple of times. It's been a little while, so I have to reach out and get him on and talk about that. And he's always insightful on all things Kentucky. Long time columnist for the Herald Leader. So yeah, I had to reach out and do that. Uh, put a bow on this episode and await the Cats against A&M, against UNC Greensboro, the Florida Gators. So weekend gets busy, so we'll see how that all plays out. But check Cole out at the Cats Pose as always. Follow him there. Listen to him on the radio. Uh, check out everything that he's putting out. Follow us. We got our link tree on our Twitter bio, Apple Podcast, Spotify, YouTube, all that. You can check out archived episodes. This current one will be there as soon as it drops. Um, you know, Tony Delk talking about denim is on there. We just had the denim game. ASB Glass Floor. We had those guys on a couple weeks ago. So, you can find different types of stuff, different types of topics and storylines that we cover as we cover Kentucky. Baseball is coming. We're talking some Braves and some Red Sox and see what they do. As we mix that in to our Kentucky conversation, we'll have some guests coming up as well too. So everybody, stay warm because it's enjoy the warm weather. Feels like it's 100 degrees outside after this winter weather that we had. So enjoy that while it lasts. Root the Cats on. We'll be back next week to talk about what happens with the Gators, all that and much more on Believe in Kentucky. For Cole Park, my name is Vinny Hardy. Another episode of Believe in Kentucky on the Believe Network, and we'll see everybody next time, y'all.